The barbecue was supposed to be a relaxing Saturday afternoon. Our neighbors had invited us over, and honestly, I was looking forward to it. Good food, cold beer, and decent company. What I wasn't expecting was for my wife to turn it into my personal execution. We were sitting around the patio table with 3 other couples. The conversation had drifted to relationships, as it always does when people have had a few drinks. Someone made a joke about keeping the spark alive in marriage, and everyone laughed. That's when she decided to strike. "Well, maybe my husband should take a course on satisfying women," she said, looking directly at me with that smug smile I'd grown to despise. Lord knows he could use the education. The table went silent. You could hear the neighbor's dog barking 3 houses down. Everyone stared at me, waiting to see how I'd react to being publicly castrated by my own wife. I took a slow sip of my beer, set it down deliberately, and looked her straight in the eyes. "You know what, honey? You're absolutely right. Maybe I should learn how to satisfy women. Because clearly, I've been wasting my time trying to bring life to something that's drier than week-old toast, and about as responsive as a brick wall." Her face went from smug to horrified in about 2 seconds flat. The other wives gasped, and I could see the men trying not to smirk into their drinks. But I wasn't done. "I mean, you're the expert on satisfaction, right? That's why you spend most nights scrolling through your phone instead of paying attention to anything happening around you. Maybe I should ask you for tips on how to be completely satisfied with doing absolutely nothing." She opened her mouth to say something, but I cut her off. "Or better yet, maybe we should both take a course. You could learn how to appreciate what you have before it decides it's had enough of being unappreciated." The silence that followed was beautiful. She sat there looking like someone had slapped her across the face, which in a way, I suppose I had. Our host, trying to break the tension, mumbled something about checking on the grill and practically ran away from the table. "How dare you?" she finally whispered, her voice shaking with rage and embarrassment. "How dare I what? Tell the truth? You wanted to humiliate me in front of our friends, so congratulations. You got everyone's attention. Was it everything you hoped it would be?" She stood up so fast her chair scraped against the concrete. "We're leaving. Now." "No, we're not. You can leave if you want, but I'm staying. I was invited here, and I'm enjoying myself. For the first time in months, actually." The look she gave me could have melted steel, but instead of the usual guilt or shame I might have felt, I felt something else entirely. Relief. Like a pressure valve had finally been released. She grabbed her purse and stormed off toward the house, probably to call someone to pick her up or to hide in the bathroom until I agreed to leave. Either way, I didn't care. One of the other husbands leaned over and said quietly, "Damn, man, that was brutal." "Sometimes brutal is the only language people understand," I replied, taking another drink. The rest of the afternoon was actually pleasant. Without her there to make sarcastic comments about everything I said or did, I could actually enjoy conversations with people. I stayed until the sun started setting, helped clean up, and drove home alone. When I walked through the front door, she was waiting for me in the living room like a prosecutor ready to deliver closing arguments. Her arms were crossed, her foot was tapping, and I could see the speech she'd been rehearsing written all over her face. "Are you out of your mind?" she exploded before I even had my keys set down. "How could you embarrass me like that in front of everyone? Do you have any idea what you've done?" I hung my jacket on the chair and looked at her calmly. "I embarrassed you? That's rich. What exactly do you think you were trying to do to me?" I was making a joke. "No, you were trying to humiliate me. There's a difference. A joke is supposed to be funny for everyone involved. What you did was try to make yourself look clever at my expense. Well, congratulations. You found out what happens when you poke a sleeping bear." She stared at me like she was seeing a stranger. And maybe she was. Because the man who would have apologized, who would have tried to smooth things over and pretend it never happened, wasn't standing in this room anymore. "You made me look like a fool," she said, her voice getting higher. "You made yourself look like a fool. I just held up a mirror so everyone else could see what I've been looking at for the past year. A woman who thinks tearing down her husband in public is acceptable behavior. That's not what I meant to do. That's exactly what you meant to do. You've been doing it for months. Little comments, little digs, always with that sweet smile so you can pretend you're just being playful. Well, playtime's over." I walked past her toward the stairs, but she grabbed my arm. "Where do you think you're going? We're not done talking about this." I looked down at her hand on my arm, then back at her face. "Yes, we are. Because for the first time in a long time, I said exactly what I meant to say. And if you don't like the taste of your own medicine, maybe you should think twice before serving it to other people." The course she wanted me to take? The one about satisfying women? I was starting to think the first lesson should be about satisfying myself, because clearly, I'd forgotten how to do that somewhere along the way. The next morning, I woke up before my alarm. For the first time in months, I actually felt rested. There was something liberating about finally saying what I'd been thinking for so long. She was still asleep, curled up on her side of the bed with her back to me, and I realized I didn't feel the usual urge to try to fix things before she woke up. Instead, I got up quietly, made my coffee, and sat on the back porch watching the sunrise. When she finally came downstairs an hour later, she looked like she was ready for round two. "We need to talk about last night," she said, standing in the doorway with her arms crossed. "Do we? I thought I was pretty clear about everything. You can't talk to me like that, especially not in public." I took a sip of my coffee and looked at her over the rim. "Funny, you didn't seem to have that same concern when you were talking about me in public. That was different." "No, it wasn't. It was exactly the same. The only difference is that you're used to being the one doing the attacking." She stood there for a moment, clearly expecting me to apologize or at least show some remorse. When it became obvious that wasn't happening, she huffed and went back inside. I heard cabinets slamming in the kitchen, which used to be my cue to go in and try to smooth things over. Today, I just finished my coffee and went to shower. The old me would have spent the entire day trying to make her feel better, bringing her favorite lunch, suggesting we watch one of her shows, asking what I could do to fix things. The old me was apparently an idiot. Instead, I did exactly what I wanted to do. I went to the gym for the first time in 6 months. Not to impress her or because she'd made comments about my appearance, but because I missed feeling strong. I spent 2 hours there, and it felt incredible. When I got home, she was sitting at the kitchen table with her laptop, probably venting to her sister or her friends about what a monster I was. She looked up when I walked in, sweaty and actually smiling. "Where were you?" "At the gym." "Since when do you go to the gym?" "Since today. I'm thinking about making it a regular thing." She stared at me like I'd announced I was joining the circus. "Are you having some kind of midlife crisis?" "No, I'm having some kind of clarity. There's a difference." That evening, she tried a different approach. She made dinner, which she hadn't done in weeks, and even opened a bottle of wine. She was being unusually chatty, asking about my day, complimenting the changes she'd noticed in my mood. "You seem different today," she said, swirling the wine in her glass. "More? I don't know. Energetic. I feel different. Good different or bad different?" I looked at her across the table. She was trying so hard to read me, to figure out what angle to take. It was almost amusing. "Just different. I've been thinking about what you said yesterday, about taking a course." Her eyes lit up. She thought she was winning. "Oh, that's great. I mean, I know some therapists who specialize in couples work, and there are these weekend workshops." "No, not that kind of course. I'm thinking more about learning new things. Maybe taking up photography or learning a new language. Things that interest me." The light in her eyes dimmed. "Oh, that's not really what I meant. I know exactly what you meant, but I've decided to interpret your advice my own way." Over the next few days, the pattern continued. She'd try to provoke me with little comments or attitude, waiting for me to react the way I always had. When I didn't take the bait, she'd get frustrated and try harder. "You're being weird," she said on Thursday morning as I was getting ready for work. "How so?" You're not acting like yourself. Maybe this is who I actually am when I'm not constantly trying to avoid conflict with you." She didn't like that answer. "So now I'm the problem? Everything that's wrong with our marriage is my fault." "I didn't say that. But you're the one who wanted me to take a course on satisfying women." "Well, lesson 1 apparently is learning that you can't satisfy someone who's determined to be unsatisfied." That Friday, she tried to start an argument about the dishes. Apparently, I'd loaded the dishwasher wrong, and she launched into a 10-minute lecture about the proper way to arrange plates and glasses. The old me would have apologized and reloaded everything her way. The new me just looked at her and said, "If you don't like how I do it, feel free to do it yourself from now on." That's not the point. Actually, that's exactly the point. You want to criticize how I do things? Fine, you can do them yourself. She was speechless, literally standing there with her mouth open, holding a plate like it was evidence in a murder trial. But you always... I always what? Let you treat me like hired help who can't do anything right? Yeah, well, I'm taking a break from that particular arrangement. By the weekend, she was getting desperate. She tried being extra affectionate, which felt forced and artificial. When that didn't work, she tried picking a fight about money, about my family, about anything she could think of. But I'd learned something important that week. The moment you stop trying to control someone else's emotions, you realize how much energy you've been wasting. All those years of walking on eggshells, trying to anticipate her moods, trying to fix problems that weren't really problems. Sunday night, as we were getting ready for bed, she finally asked the question I'd been waiting for. Are you happy? In this marriage, I mean. I thought about it for a moment. Really thought about it. I'm starting to be. What's that supposed to mean? It means I spent so long trying to make you happy that I forgot what it felt like to worry about making myself happy. Your little course suggestion? It's working out better than you probably expected. She climbed into bed and turned off her light without saying another word. But I could feel her lying there awake, probably trying to figure out how to get the old me back. The problem was, the old me was never coming back. That man had taken his final bow last Saturday at a neighborhood barbecue. And honestly, good riddance, damn. 3 weeks into my new approach to life, the real fun began. She'd been testing me constantly, looking for cracks in my armor, waiting for me to slip back into my old patterns. When that didn't happen, she decided to escalate. It started with her mother calling me at work on a Tuesday afternoon. I think you need to apologize to my daughter, she said without even bothering with pleasantries. Hello to you too. And apologize for what exactly? For embarrassing her in public. She told me what you said at that barbecue, and I'm shocked. That's not the man we thought you were. I leaned back in my office chair and almost laughed. You're right. The man you thought I was would have sat there and taken it with a smile. That man was an idiot. Excuse me. Your daughter has been disrespecting me for months, and the first time I stand up for myself, suddenly I'm the villain? That's interesting logic. She was just making a harmless joke. Nothing about what she said was harmless. But since we're talking about jokes, here's a funny one. Your daughter hasn't cooked a meal in 3 weeks. She hasn't done laundry in a month. She contributes exactly $0 to our household expenses, but somehow she thinks she's in a position to critique my performance in any area of our marriage. The silence on the other end was deafening. Those are private matters between you and her, she finally stammered. They were private until she decided to make our intimate life a public topic of conversation. So let's keep it public, shall we? Your daughter wanted me to learn about satisfying women. Well, I'm learning that most women would be grateful to have a husband who pays all the bills, does most of the housework, and still gets insulted for his efforts. You can't speak about my daughter that way. I can speak about your daughter exactly the way she speaks about me. Fair is fair. I hung up the phone and felt that same rush of satisfaction I'd experienced at the barbecue. The truth was liberating. That evening, she was waiting for me with fire in her eyes. My mother called me crying because of what you said to her. Good. Maybe now she knows how I felt when you tried to humiliate me in front of our friends. You had no right to air our private business to her. I set my keys down and looked at her with what I hoped was obvious amusement. Our private business? You mean the same private business you shared with an entire table of people last Saturday? Or are you talking about different private business? That's not the same thing. You're absolutely right. It's not the same thing. When you aired our private business, it was to make fun of me. When I aired our private business, it was to tell the truth. She was pacing now, which was always a bad sign. You made me sound like some lazy housewife who doesn't contribute anything. I didn't make you sound like anything. I described your actual behavior. If you don't like how it sounds when someone says it out loud, maybe you should change the behavior instead of attacking the person pointing it out. I do plenty around here. Name 3 things you've done this week to contribute to our household. She stopped pacing and stared at me. I don't have to justify my contributions to you. You just proved my point. You can't name 3 things because there aren't 3 things. But somehow you think you're qualified to give me performance reviews. The argument continued for another hour, but it was different from our usual fights. Usually, I'd be trying to de-escalate, trying to find compromise, trying to make her feel better. This time, I just kept presenting facts. And facts are hard to argue with, no matter how loud you get. The next week, her sister showed up unexpectedly. She'd clearly been sent as reinforcement. I hear you two are having some problems, she said over coffee, giving me that sympathetic look that women perfect by the age of 12. We're not having problems. We're having clarity. That's an interesting way to put it. She says you've been very harsh with her lately. Define harsh. Well, apparently you told her mother some very personal things about your marriage. I nodded. I did. right after her mother called to lecture me about embarrassing her daughter. Funny how that part of the story didn't make it into the retelling. Her sister shifted uncomfortably. Look, I know she can be difficult sometimes, but she loves you, does she? Because in my experience, people don't usually try to humiliate the people they love in front of strangers. She didn't mean it that way. I'm sure she didn't mean for me to respond the way I did either. But here we are. Maybe you could try couples therapy? I almost choked on my coffee. Therapy? So I can pay someone to tell me that I need to be more understanding of why my wife thinks it's acceptable to insult me in public? No thanks. Marriage is about compromise. You're absolutely right. It is about compromise. I've been compromising for years. I compromise on where we eat, where we go on vacation, what we watch on TV, how we spend our money, and apparently how much disrespect I'm supposed to tolerate. She doesn't compromise on anything. So maybe it's time for her to learn what that word means. That weekend, we were invited to another gathering, this time her cousin's birthday party. I could see the panic in her eyes when she realized we'd be around the same group of people who'd witnessed our last public interaction. Please don't embarrass me again, she said as we were getting ready. I won't embarrass you, but I won't let you embarrass me either. So maybe just treat me with basic respect and we'll both be fine. The party was interesting. People were watching us, waiting to see if there would be another show. She was on her best behavior, being unusually sweet and attentive. But I could see the calculation behind every gesture. During dinner, one of her friends made a comment about how nice it was to see us working through our problems. What problems? I asked innocently. Oh, well, after last time. You mean after she tried to insult me and I responded appropriately? That wasn't a problem. That was a solution. My wife's face went pale, but I just smiled and took a bite of my food. I've learned a lot about satisfaction lately, I continued. Turns out the key to being satisfied is refusing to accept being unsatisfied. Revolutionary concept, really. The table was quiet again, but this time I was enjoying it. She wanted me to take a course? This was lesson number 1. Respect yourself enough to demand respect from others. And judging by the look on her face, class was definitely in session. By the 4th week, I'd stopped doing things for her entirely. Not out of spite, but out of simple logic. Why would I go out of my way to please someone who clearly didn't appreciate the effort? It started small. I stopped making her coffee in the morning. When she asked why, I told her I was busy making my own. But you always make mine too, she said, standing there in her pajamas looking genuinely confused. I used to do a lot of things. Then you made it clear that my efforts weren't good enough. So I'm focusing my energy on someone who actually appreciates it. Me. She stared at me like I'd spoken in a foreign language. The grocery shopping was next. For years, I'd done the weekly shopping, carefully buying everything she liked, remembering her preferences, picking up little treats she enjoyed. The first week I stopped, she didn't notice. The second week, she asked where her favorite yogurt was. I didn't buy it. Why not? Because I don't eat it. I bought what I needed. But what about what I need? What about it? You're a grown woman with a car and a credit card. If you need something specific, you can get it yourself. The look of shock on her face was almost comical. But you always handle the shopping. I handle my shopping. If you want someone to handle yours, you'll need to hire a personal assistant or learn to do it yourself. Laundry was the breaking point. I'd been doing our laundry together for years, out of efficiency more than kindness. But when I realized I was washing, drying, folding, and putting away her clothes while she contributed nothing, I made an executive decision. I started doing only my own laundry. She noticed when she ran out of clean underwear. Did you forget to do laundry this week? She asked, standing in our bedroom holding an empty drawer. No, I did my laundry. Your laundry is still wherever you left it. What do you mean my laundry? I mean the clothes that belong to you. I wash my clothes. Yours are still dirty. But we always do laundry together. We never did laundry together. I did laundry, and you happen to benefit from it. There's a difference. She stood there holding the empty drawer like it was evidence of some great betrayal. So now I have to do my own laundry? Shocking concept, I know. A grown adult being responsible for their own basic needs. This is ridiculous. You're being petty. I'm being practical. You wanted me to take a course on satisfying women. Well, I'm learning that the first step is stopping the attempt to satisfy women who are determined to remain unsatisfied. Cooking was where things got really interesting. I'd been making dinner most nights, usually catering to her preferences, often making things I didn't particularly enjoy just because she liked them. One Tuesday evening, I made myself a steak dinner, just for me. She came home to find me eating at the kitchen table with a plate for one. Where's my dinner? I don't know. Where did you put it? What do you mean? Didn't you cook for both of us? No, I cooked for me. I was hungry, so I made myself food. But what am I supposed to eat? I gestured toward the kitchen. Whatever you want. The kitchen is fully equipped. I'm sure you'll figure something out. She stood there for a full minute, just staring at me eating my steak. I can't believe you're doing this. Doing what? Taking care of my own needs? Yeah, it's been a real learning experience. You're punishing me. I'm not punishing you. I'm just not taking care of you anymore. There's a difference. You made it clear that my efforts weren't appreciated, so I'm redirecting them towards someone who values them. This is insane. We're married. We're supposed to take care of each other. I put down my fork and looked at her. Really looked at her. You're absolutely right. We are supposed to take care of each other. So when was the last time you took care of me? The silence stretched between us like a chasm. I take care of you all the time, she finally said, but her voice lacked conviction. Really? Name one thing you've done for me this month. One thing that was specifically for my benefit, not yours. She opened her mouth, then closed it. Opened it again, then closed it again. That's what I thought. Over the next few days, the reality of the situation started to sink in for her. She had to buy her own groceries, which meant actually going to the store and making decisions about what to eat. She had to do her own laundry, which meant figuring out which settings to use and actually folding her own clothes. She had to make her own meals, which meant planning ahead and actually cooking. Watching her navigate these basic adult responsibilities was like watching someone learn to walk. She'd call me at work asking how long to cook chicken, or text me asking what temperature to set the washing machine. I thought you were perfectly capable of handling everything yourself, I'd respond. I'm sure you'll figure it out. The breaking point came on Friday night. She'd attempted to make herself dinner and had somehow managed to burn pasta. Not overcook it, actually burn it. The kitchen smelled like a chemical fire. I need help, she said when I walked in the door. With what? With everything. This is ridiculous. I can't function like this. Funny, I've been functioning like this for years. The only difference is that I was also functioning for you. That's different. How is it different? Because you're good at this stuff. I'm good at it because I learned how to do it. You could learn too, if you wanted to. I don't want to learn. I want things to go back to normal. Normal was me doing everything while you criticized how I did it. I'm much more satisfied with the new arrangement. She started crying then, which used to be my cue to cave in and fix everything. Used to be. Please, she said. I'm sorry about what I said at the barbecue. I didn't mean it. Can't we just go back to how things were? No, I said simply. Because now I know what I was missing. What were you missing? Self-respect. Turns out it's pretty satisfying. Who knew? The intervention happened on a Sunday. I came home from the gym to find her entire family sitting in my living room like some kind of tribunal. Her mother, father, sister, and even her brother who lived 3 states away. We need to talk, her father said as I walked in. Do we? Because I'm pretty sure this is my house, and I don't remember inviting anyone over. Her mother jumped in immediately. We're concerned about how you've been treating our daughter. I looked around the room at all their serious faces and almost laughed. Let me guess. She called you all here to gang up on me because she can't handle being treated the way she treats other people. That's not what this is about, her sister said. Really? Then what is it about? Her brother leaned forward. Look, man, we get that marriage is hard, but you can't just stop being a husband because you had one fight. One fight? Is that what she told you? I sat down in my own chair and looked at each of them. Did she mention that this all started when she tried to humiliate me in front of our neighbors? Or did she skip that part? She said you overreacted to a harmless comment, her mother said. Harmless? She suggested I needed to take a course on satisfying women because I was so terrible at it. In front of 6 people. But when I point out that she hasn't satisfied anyone in this house in months, suddenly I'm the monster. The room went quiet. Her father cleared his throat. Maybe you two just need some space to work things out. We have plenty of space. The problem isn't space. The problem is that your daughter expects to be treated like a princess while treating me like hired help. That's not true. She finally spoke up from the corner where she'd been sitting silently. Isn't it? When was the last time you cooked a meal? Cleaned anything? Contributed any money to our expenses? Hell, when was the last time you did anything that wasn't entirely focused on your own wants and needs? Her family looked uncomfortable now. They were starting to realize this wasn't the simple case of an unreasonable husband they'd been led to believe. Those are just household chores, her sister said weakly. Those are adult responsibilities. The same adult responsibilities I've been handling for both of us, while she criticizes how I do everything. Her mother tried a different approach. But you love her. That's what marriage is about. Supporting each other through difficult times. You're absolutely right. It is about supporting each other. So where's my support? Where was my support when she decided to embarrass me publicly? Where's my support when I work all day and come home to more work while she watches TV? I stood up and looked directly at her. You wanted your family here to pressure me into going back to being your personal servant. But here's what's going to happen instead. You're going to tell them exactly what you said at that barbecue. Word for word. I don't have to. Tell them. Right now. Tell them what you said about me needing a course on satisfying women. She looked around the room at her family's expectant faces. Her mouth opened and closed like a fish. Tell them how you've contributed to our household expenses this year. Tell them about all the meals you've cooked, all the cleaning you've done, all the ways you've supported me. Stop it, she whispered. Tell them about the last time you did anything nice for me without being asked. Tell them about the last time you thanked me for anything I do around here. Please. You brought them here to judge me based on your version of events. So let's give them the complete picture. Her father stood up. I think we should leave them to work this out privately. Good idea, I said. Because this is between me and the woman who thought it would be fun to publicly question my adequacy as a husband. The same woman who's apparently shocked to discover that disrespected people eventually stop trying to earn respect. As her family filed out, each of them avoided eye contact with me. Her mother paused at the door. I hope you can find a way to forgive each other. I already have forgiven her, I said. I've forgiven her for taking me for granted, for disrespecting me, and for trying to manipulate me with this little family meeting. What I haven't done is forgotten any of it. After they left, she sat on the couch crying. How could you embarrass me like that in front of my family? The same way you embarrassed me in front of our friends. The only difference is that everything I said was true. They think I'm a terrible wife now. Are you a terrible wife? She looked up at me with tears streaming down her face. That's not fair. Nothing about this situation has been fair, but it's been educational. I've learned that I don't need to satisfy someone who refuses to be satisfied. I've learned that respect isn't something you can demand. It's something you earn. And I've learned that the course you suggested I take, I've been teaching it to myself for the past month. What course? How to satisfy myself. Turns out it's a lot easier than trying to satisfy someone else who won't return the favor. 2 months after the barbecue incident, she finally asked the question I'd been waiting for. What do you want from me? I was reading on the couch, genuinely relaxed for the first time in years. She'd been trying different tactics for weeks. Anger, tears, guilt trips, silence treatments. But I'd remained consistently uninterested in playing any of those games. Nothing, I said without looking up from my book. Nothing? That's impossible. Everyone wants something. I set the book down and looked at her. Really looked at her. She looked exhausted, which made sense. Learning to take care of yourself is tiring when you've never done it before. You're right. I do want something. I want to be respected. I want to be appreciated. I want to be with someone who contributes as much as they take. But I've realized I can't want those things from you. Why not? Because you've proven you're not capable of providing them. So I've adjusted my expectations accordingly. She sat down on the edge of the coffee table, facing me. What if I changed? What if I started doing more around the house? Stopped making those comments? Then you'd be doing what you should have been doing all along. But you'd be doing it because you got caught, not because you respect me. That's not true, isn't it? If I hadn't stood up for myself at that barbecue, would you have suddenly started appreciating me? Would you have stopped taking me for granted? She was quiet for a long moment. Probably not. Exactly. So this isn't about change. This is about damage control. But people can change. Marriages can get better. They can. But both people have to want that. And they have to want it for the right reasons. She started crying again, but these tears felt different. Less manipulative, more genuine. I don't want to lose you. You lost me the moment you decided it was acceptable to humiliate me in public. Everything since then has just been me figuring out how to be okay with that. So that's it. You're just done? After everything we've been through. I picked up my book again. I'm not done. I'm satisfied. For the first time in years, I'm actually satisfied with my life. How can you be satisfied when our marriage is falling apart? Because I've learned the difference between being in a relationship and being someone's unpaid employee. I spent years trying to make you happy, and you spent years telling me I wasn't good enough at it. So I stopped trying. But the course, You said you were taking a course. I did take a course. The most important course of my life, actually. I learned that you can't satisfy someone who doesn't want to be satisfied. I learned that respect isn't negotiable. And I learned that my happiness doesn't depend on your approval. She wiped her eyes. What does that mean for us? It means I'm not going back to being the man who accepts disrespect because he's afraid of being alone. If you want a marriage, you need to offer something worth being married to. I can do that. I can be better. Maybe you can, but I'm not holding my breath waiting for it. So what happens now? I looked at her one last time, sitting there on my coffee table, finally understanding that all her games and manipulation tactics had no power over someone who was genuinely content with or without her. Now you decide what kind of person you want to be. Do you want to be someone who earns respect and gives it back? Or do you want to keep being someone who expects to receive what they won't give? And if I choose wrong, then you'll find out what it's like to take that course on satisfying women by yourself. Because you'll have plenty of time to figure out what you could have done differently. She stood up slowly, like she was carrying the weight of every careless comment and thoughtless action from the past few years. You really meant it, didn't you? When you said you'd learn to satisfy yourself? Completely. Turns out when you stop trying to please someone who can't be pleased, you have a lot more energy to focus on things that actually matter. Like what? Like self-respect. Like setting boundaries. Like refusing to accept unacceptable behavior just because it's coming from someone you love. She walked toward the stairs, then stopped. What you said at the barbecue, about me being dry as toast, did you really mean that? I closed my book and smiled. I meant every word. But the beautiful thing about taking a course on satisfaction is that I learned it doesn't matter what you are or aren't. What matters is what I'm willing to accept. And you're not willing to accept me anymore. I'm not willing to accept being disrespected anymore. If you can figure out the difference, maybe we can have a conversation. If not, well, you suggested I learn something new. Mission accomplished. As she walked upstairs, I opened my book again. The course she'd sarcastically suggested had taught me everything I needed to know. Sometimes the best way to satisfy women is to start by satisfying yourself. And sometimes the most satisfying thing you can do is refuse to be unsatisfied.